Yeah.
And we
What do
have
you
a
mean by
new.
saying know everything about us?
I don't know,
I think
just
that's a
the
go
way
ahead.
we talk. I think we give off like we're very casual, and somehow these people, I'm afraid, will get to know everything about our lives and friendship through the podcast.
Bro, I'm gonna cut all this shit.
Yeah,
And,
please, it's so
and,
narcissistic. How can you say
and,
that? Is he bad?
and so, guys, today we're gonna talk about Sound of Metal, which secured the best Oscar for sound and
The
for
best
editing.
Oscar? What the fuck is the best Oscar?
So, guys, today we're gonna talk about Sound of Metal. So, I just want to start off like by asking all guys, can all like just express in one word what do you think the film really did to you? Like just one word to describe the film. You know, how would you describe it in one word?
What is this pageanty question you're opening with, bro? Bro.
Come on, bro, go for it.
Oh my god. Oh,
Didn't see that coming, Gaurav.
didn't see that coming at all. This is why Kush needs to send us a questionnaire before.
One word, bro. It's not that tough.
What is your one word you said so we get some context? I have no idea what to say.
Peaceful. My word is peaceful. I felt super peaceful at the end, just because of all the silence in the film. Yeah, but
Yeah. Did you get the context, or do you want me to go next?
Yeah, you go next.
Kush has his one word planned since 3 days. He's like, this is the word I'm going to reply to.
This is the word.
I'll ask them this stupid question at the start, and this is how I'd reply. Okay, cool.
Bro, for me, it was ambition, bro. Like for me, like in one word, I would put ambition.
I think the one word that I would not associate with this film is metal, because there was barely any metal in the film. So
Nice.
yeah.
So that, you know, like I went to the film expecting some more music, but as I started watching, I was like, where the fuck is the music?
Yeah, I think that
yeah, because there was so much hype around him being this metal drummer, and it starts out the whole underground metal scene, and even the movies posters and all of that, including the name Sound of Metal, but none of except for the beginning 20 minutes, none of it reflected really throughout the rest of it.
I think that was a conscious decision, like on the marketing team's part, to sort of market it in such a way that people are sort of drawn into this film thinking it's going to be a cool film about like metal drama and all of these things.
But that's not right now.
I just feel that's a fucked up marketing decision, to be honest. Why are you saving their ass? Like it's just setting wrong expectations.
But it at the same time, it's getting people into the theater, right? And then you deliver a good movie. People after the movie, people are going to question, oh wait, I was marketed and conned into this, because they watched a good movie. So I feel like I wouldn't mind. Like so many movies, like if you were to sort of get into, would take you to a different direction. But it's okay. It's just a hook for you to enter the film. And once you watch a good film and you come out with a different experience, I don't think people are so analytical about, you know, this is what got me into the film. Thanks, Kush, for making us watch this movie, because I felt like it was a bit of a change. It was a bit of a palate cleanser, so to speak, after all of those sort of heavy movies that we were going for previously. And this just felt like a more relatable, human, something that happens in our own world sort of a film. And
1 second, bro. Sorry to cut you off. 1 sec. How is this not equally heavy, and how is this relatable?
It was a movie based in a contemporary world, the kind of world that we live in. It's about a metal drummer, which is a very recent concept. The past two movies we were going for was Sonar Killa, and then we went for Woman Under the Influence, both in the 70s, both in times before we were even born. Okay, our connection to those worlds was hugely sort of, we were not connected to that world ever. And this is a very recent movie that has come to us. It's a movie everyone's been talking about. We have a buzz around it, and we've picked it up. So in that sense, I am saying.
Just to bring us back to this film, I just want to ask Gaurav, like actually, what did you find peaceful about it? Was there something to do with the sound of the film, or was there something to do with the way it was visualized? And like, why peaceful? Because I surely found it peaceful too, but I want to understand. I also found it very disturbing. Like it was a lot of, it like poked me at places where I did not want to be poked. It was that.
Yeah, so I mean, you asked basically what was the one word we came away from the film feeling, right? And for me, that was my emotions towards the end of the film or the closing of the film. And towards the end of the film is basically him outside sitting in one corner of the city, and he's just the church bell sort of ding dongs around him. There's a couple of kids sort of skating on the sidewalk, and he's just listening to all of them in complete silence. There's no need for him to hear any of it, right? He has finally sort of come to accept that this is how he is, which is deaf, and he's no more sort of struggling with his condition. So for me, I came away from that feeling a bit serene, feeling the stillness basically that at one point his caretaker at the church sort of tells him about, this feeling of stillness that he was trying to inculcate in him by telling him to sort of sit in that room by himself for hours on end. That sort of stillness is what I felt when the film closed for me.
Between us, you are the closest to music, as much as it comes. So I wanted to ask you, like, do you feel that this film kind of portrayed the life of a musician honestly? Like, what do you feel about the way this guy was characterized and his journey as a musician?
So there was nothing about like you can't generalize him you can't generalize that personality as or as not a musician. So that question is not correct, because he like the way his personality was, regardless of I mean his profession was in the space of sound, right? Whatever, he happened to be a musician in this case, and when he lost his hearing, he behaved as anybody in his place would have, a person who's had an unhappy childhood, who lives so unstably on the road, and who's losing the thing he loves to do the most because of this illness. There was nothing about being a musician in it. It was just about being a normal person who cannot do what he wants anymore. So that question is only not valid, which is what I was saying. Sorry, go ahead.
No, just to add another, what you only said,
Yeah.
that I think I'm not trying to generalize. I'm just trying to say that the fact that he lost his hearing was so much more impactful in the film for this character because he was related to sound. In this case, a musician. So,
Yeah.
like somebody else losing an eyesight, if his entire life is dependent on the eyes, then that becomes very powerful. So this guy, if he would have lost his eyesight, wouldn't have been that impactful into this story as much as it did when he lost his hearing. Because now he can't even, a musician can't hear, himself playing. That is like the ultimate irony. And it also comes from this real life story of Beethoven. So like this actually happened to Beethoven. And after he lost his hearing, that is when he did most of his classical work that we today are inspired by.
Oh, I didn't know this. Okay.
No, actually that's true. But just wanted to like understand from you in a more, because I feel you know these people the best. I've not interacted with musicians that much. Do you think the way Riz Ahmed also performed and the way his character's journey was, that he was fighting, dude, I was like heartbroken the way he fought. It was about his fight throughout the film for me. So do you think that was honest in a way that could you believe that yes, this guy would make these decisions and like he would do this, like he would go to that deaf place and his journey? That's what I want to ask.
Yeah, again, so I mean, if I were to also put it in very broad terms, then yeah, he was, because he came from metal, and the thing about metal music is that it's a very it's inherently it stems from a very rebellious place. It stems from a very cult sort of space. It's not a very broad thing. So even his entire rebellion of him losing his sound, like of him not accepting it, him not being able to be still about it and all, also comes from the personality of what a general metalhead would be. But again, I'm saying that it's not every. So in that sense, yeah, if I were to answer your question, yeah, he did portray that particular thing honestly, because he showed the same amount of aggression, as well as willingness to not really show his feelings properly, that any metal musician on a general level would. But again, I'm generalizing.
Because this question stemmed from the fact that is he a stereotypical character?
I think he is a stereotypical character now. I mean, I didn't read so much into it, and I have not been into metal now for quite a few years now. So I don't know what the current recent scene is like. But other than, I think it is stereotypical, but I think it still works. From the very fact that you're asking this question, because metal is such a small community in the world that even if I think you have to take a stereotypical person from such a small community to showcase it on such a mass level, because otherwise people won't understand it.
I don't know a lot about metal heads for me to already form a stereotype in my own head. But but at the same time, while watching the film, I never felt like it wasn't true to life or that it wasn't accurate in some way. I completely believed into who this character was. I didn't doubt him or the nature of his music or the nature of his character in some way. So in that sense, I'm not sure if it was accurate or not, but it didn't matter for me because I bought into it. For me, the film sort of sold me on his character, and that's all that mattered.
Agreed. Bro, Gaur, do you think that this film, like, do you have any thoughts on the narrative, the structure, the dialogues, also the sound? Because I strongly feel design of the film was somewhere in the script, because it was so important to the events that were happening, the sound design of the film. So I just feel that they kind of must have written it, this is where he stops hearing, this is where we can hear him from his point of view, this is where we hear from the world's point of view, all of that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm sure everything is written. In terms of the writing of it, I think, if I had to, it would probably be that we sort of very quickly into the film, we realize that his hearing is fading, that he is going to lose his auditory capabilities, and we move into the rest of the film, which is basically him sort of having to cope with this. But I don't get a sense of him as a character before all this. I don't get too much of a sense of character about what exactly did he love, what exactly were his priorities in life, all of those things, which I would have liked. I feel like that was some part of the character that I feel could have added in some way. But at the same time, I also appreciate the economy of the storytelling, of having to move the story forward so quickly. Maybe it was just everything was possibly said, and of course everything that we are told in the opening scenes is that he is a metal drummer and he is in a relationship with his girlfriend, and those are the two things that matter to him the most, because he's practically on a trailer. There's no other family, no other attachments that he has as a character. That's what we introduced to him as a character, and I appreciate that also for what it is in the script.
Also, it's interesting that you bring out this point, because his family wasn't shown. There's only this one point in the film where he talks about, his mother,
Parents,
his
yeah.
girlfriend's father. Yeah, that's it. And there we get to know that, he
Dude,
had
did you all at any point feel that when the first time he met the girlfriend's father, I thought that this dude was banging the girl. I didn't know that this was the father.
No, I don't know. I didn't have that.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. She lived in Paris and all that, like with her dad. I didn't know that.
Yeah, like it came as a surprise, but like he tells he says it over there also, that my girlfriend's father is rich, and also like I think I got an idea that it'll be rich, but like of course it was a surprise that she's staying with her father, and this is.
I definitely didn't think he was banging her dad.
I was really looking forward to this moment in the film that I was hoping for would come, that he cannot hear, but he's still playing the drums. Like I was just waiting for that moment that this should happen. This should happen.
He does,
and it never really happened. When?
This small scene where he's inside his trailer and he actually brings out his drum kit and everything, and and he can just basically feel the vibrations, basically, of the cymbals crashing and everything. But he can feel it through those vibrations. Just like
Yeah,
that,
but it
I
doesn't.
love that beautiful scene where they are also on the slide, the kid and him, and he's sort of playing the drums for the kid on the
Oh,
slide, and we
yeah.
can just hear the vibrations.
But he's not playing
Yeah.
the drums for the kid. No, he's playing with the kid. Like they just.
Yeah, he's playing with the kid, but I mean,
Like
definitely.
he's making them hear the beats through the vibrations. Yeah.
Yeah.
And bro, that is the scene where I finally like related so much to the title of the film, like Sound of Metal. Like they could still hear the sound of metal, which is the slide, even after losing all normal hearing. I just thought that is so cool. That scene was something else.
Cool. I want to ask you all. So like I'm clearly not from like a filmmaking background or like that interested in film as much as you all.
Clearly.
But to me now sometimes when I watch these type of movies like Sound of Metal, I feel sometimes I like them because I'm supposed to like them. Like you know what I mean? Like because it's won an Oscar or because there's so much positive talk around the movie. I feel if that talk just happened to, if the movie was the same and that talk just happened to turn negative, and if all I heard was bad stuff about the movie, I wouldn't like it. So I want to talk to you about that. Like, what is, because I don't think I truly liked it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think I, like, and I think, I think I don't really like a lot of movies which I'm like supposed to like. So I just want to understand from your end, does that happen to y'all? Because I feel y'all genuinely like movies which receive good acclamation, and if so, and after that, I want to ask y'all, what is it that y'all actually liked about this movie? Like, what is it? Like, what makes this movie so great in the first place? Yeah, Kush, you want to go first?
Cool. So, bro, I think the answer to the first question lies in the answer to the second question. Basically, what I really liked about this film, and I totally agree with what you're saying. It's totally cool not to like, because like it doesn't mean that it's a great film if some academy has given them an award. Why I personally liked it is because it's very simple, bro. The last scene, if you remember, he sits on that bench, and there is this bell going on, and it's irritating. The sound to him is really irritating. We get it because it's irritating to us. It's a very bad sound. And he sees these kids playing and struggling with something, the skateboard, and they can't make up their mind who's gonna hop onto the skateboard, or something, a conflict kind of a thing is happening. And then he removes his machine and the implants, and basically it's silence, which means that basically he's accepted that he cannot hear. And that made me feel very peaceful, as Gaurav said. And then in the edit of the film, we cut back to those kids. Now they've resolved the conflict, and now that one of the kids is on the skateboard, and it's much better. Their situation is also much better. So that one scene, the end scene, that is exactly why I liked the film, because it came to that closure, which for me became much bigger than this one person's dilemma of suffering with hear loss. It became um, a larger thing about accepting who you are, no matter how you would change. And by doing that, you can really impact the world around you. So that theme of the film rather really like struck a chord within me, and that's why I felt that this film, even if I did not find it utterly entertaining, because I went into it thinking this will be something like Whiplash, and it was not. I was surprised and disappointed, but by the end of it, I was so nourished by this whole thing that I was like, you know what? I think this is a different film, and I really like it for these different things. I love Whiplash, but this is very different, and I still like it for this. Yeah, so like that's why I like it.
Okay. For me, honestly, the first part of your question about why we like these films is also because about actually we have been behind the scenes also. We know what it takes to make a film, and we appreciate it because we know how hard it is. We just, because we sort of empathize with the filmmaker trying to do something and making his sort of story and telling his story. So for us, we realize it is a real love of labor that sort of goes into creating a film like that. And generally, I wouldn't want to criticize on most films, but I realize that it is the hard work of so many people coming together for maybe a year and a half, and then putting something like this out. So unless it's utter garbage, I generally don't like to be too harsh about. because we all come from a place of we enjoy movies, and that's why I'm not too keen on dissing any movie. And about this movie specifically, why I like it is also because I try to go beyond simply the form or the technicalities of it. And in this movie, it's purely about a guy who is finding it really hard to come to terms with his life. You know, he's a guy right at the start. He seems to be having a good sort of a life, and then this hearing of his capability to hear is impaired, and we see him struggling with it the whole movie. You know, he's somehow finding it so hard to accept that truth in his life, that you know what, that that life of his is now behind him. You know, it's foregone. You know, throughout the film we see him sort of struggling with this new identity that he has of a deaf person. You know, he is no more a metalhead, and there is no way he is going to go back to that old life. You know, and he tries, right? He really tries hard in that. Even when he's trying to get those ear implants, he's trying hard to go back to somehow. He doesn't accept things as they are. You know, and that's what his sort of the caretaker tells him. You know what, we here at this sort of institute, we don't think of being deaf as being physically challenged. You know, it's completely fine. There's nothing to cure here. But in him, there's that fight. You know, that I want to go back to that life of being a metal drummer. You know, being with my girlfriend. But that life doesn't exist anymore. You know, and this is something that we all face in our lives. We are hit with this some sort of a situation, and we find it very hard to come to. So what I'm saying is basically that we all find it really hard to come to terms with things in our life, and this is that same sort of a guy. You know, but right at the end we realize that things have changed. Okay, for whatever reason, things have completely changed. Even when he goes back to his girlfriend, he thinks that it's all going to be just the same. They're going to be back in the trailer. They're going to be playing and touring. But even she has moved on. Even she's a different person now, and so has he. He's completely changed. Even those implants of his, that he sort of gets the surgery done for, they don't work as good. You know, they don't give him back his hearing in the real sense. You know, that is lost for him, and it's never to come back. And that's what we learn through the film. You know, that is why this film sort of sticks with you. It's because it's a story. Why I said it's so relatable is also because it's not about hearing loss, not even about a drummer. It's just about a guy having to come to terms with the situation in his life and the life that he's lost, which is sort of never going to come back now to him. It's just as simple as that. And if
but tell me, sorry, I thought you were done. Sorry.
Yeah, no, and if we see it just for a story about that simply, it's then that you sort of appreciate the film for what it is. You know.
Yeah, but like, okay, so do you all know about like these implants, or like are they even at like a good expensive level? Are they still like this, like unclear, or only was his case like that? I was always under the impression that implants solve deafness, like almost fully.
Even I was before this film. Even I was, but like as I read from the film, it looks like a very general thing that they showed. What do you think, Gaurav?
Bro, I'm no expert in this. I'm not a doctor, so I really don't know.
Wait, even I'm gonna try searching because I think that's important, you know, in terms of the because you know, if for example, if it actually does cure your deafness, then there's no need to accept this also. And I think, and sometimes I think acceptance is a little overrated. Like I feel that what he did was right in the sense of doing everything he can to get what he wants back and not accepting the situation. I think that's also correct. And who one of y'all said ambitious is the correct, or that is where the ambition comes from. And so, you know, so which is why I'm not very much in agreement with this aspect of acceptance in this. Yeah, the fact that his implant was like that, and if the implants are always like that, that's a different thing.
Yeah, Barut, I agree with you.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Gaurav.
I was just saying I agree with you, and I also had that sort of a little bit of a reservation with the film because I felt like that sort of. I agree with you, Barut. I feel I also have that slight reservation about the film, in the sense that I felt like it was at times it got slightly preachy for me, that okay, he's, you know what, acceptance is fine, but this guy clearly, he's a metal drummer. His life depends on it. His livelihood depends on it. He wants to get his hearing back. He wants to get back that musicality in his life. So I agree with you. I felt like he was doing the right thing by getting that surgery. You know what? Even when he was there at that, like that church or that rehab center basically for deaf people, I couldn't understand why they wouldn't let one of your family members be there as well. Like, I couldn't understand why his girlfriend wasn't allowed to be there to support him. I was like, why is he being cut off from the rest of the
No,
world?
I actually I get that, in fact, because when you're trying to rehabilitate yourself from anything which is so which can be so initially crippling as like losing a particular sense, you don't want to have somebody else who has that sense still in them. Like, why would you, like,
Why
because the
is it?
constant reminder because the reminder to yourself that you're less, like, you don't have something that the other person has, whereas if
Then-
you're only surrounded by the same
No,
people,
why would that come up when you're like with a person that's really close to you? That wouldn't come up. It would just, that person's gonna be there for your moral support. I couldn't understand
no,
why you have to sort of
bro,
completely cut off. No, even while he's sort of sending emails to her, sort of looking at the back, worrying someone might catch him just for sending an email to his girl. I was like,
bro,
why?
isn't it about I don't think it's about cutting off. I think it's about initially understanding. It's about initially coming to terms with what your situation is, like, in the sense that if
Who
I
you are,
turn,
basically.
yeah, if
I-
I turn deaf tomorrow, I won't like chilling with y'all two. Not because y'all two don't support me or y'all two won't be sympathetic. Y'all won't be like, "Hey, Bera chutta." Y'all won't say all that type of. Y'all will, in fact, very much support me,
I
like how
might.
any normal person. Shut up. Like how any normal person would. But but I wouldn't like that because looking at y'all two, I'm seeing that, fuck, dude, I wish I had my hearing back so I could chill with these two the way I always could.
That's fine.
And
No, it's also like, I just wanna, like, I think Baro, like what I get from it is that, the girlfriend always has this helpless pity in the scenes that she is with
yeah,
after he goes deaf.
and they can't help it, dude. Like,
They can't,
obviously,
yeah.
even I would have it if like some loved one lost the hearing.
No, yeah, but I don't understand why they were so closed off. Like, like, let him be in touch. That's completely fine.
No,
Like,
like, okay, I'll give you an
it's up
analogy
to
of
him,
of
right? Like, I don't understand because
no,
even
bro,
I'll tell you one more
no,
thing.
it's
Even when he sort of goes and does this surgery and he comes back to his caretaker, I think his character's name is Joe, and Joe basically says that, you know what, we don't think of being deaf as like being something to be
a
cured,
handicap.
a handicap, and basically because of this, I can't let you stay here anymore. I wouldn't, like, why? It's his choice. I mean, sure, you took him in.
No, but I'm sorry to cut you off, but I have to, because that guy explains this. He says, because there are so many other people who live with this belief, and if you come and you challenge that belief, that will endanger their whole existence. So I have to choose those people over you. He's not saying you're wrong. I don't think the character said that you are wrong. He's just saying that you are thinking that way, and that will endanger the people who've made peace with living this way. And that
Yeah.
the thought that you're saying that you're not disabled, the thought that Joe said, that is, imagine, that is empowering for the people who've lost the deafness, like they've lost hearing. Sorry.
Yeah, that's
So
fine. That's fine to have that belief. But I'm just saying it's all right if he's choosing to sort of get help for himself. There's no reason to isolate him for this. You know what? Even if he has gotten those implants, he's still deaf and he can, like, basically he told him to get out for it. And I was like, oh, why? Like, it's okay. He got his implants. You have this belief in you that you want to stay deaf. You don't want to get the treatment done. That's completely fine by you. That's good for you, man. Great for you. But he wanted to do this, so it's okay. You know what? Just accept it. There's no reason to sort of.
But that community is not made for people with implants. There might be, for example, in another story, there might be a community where people with these kind of implants live, maybe. But the fact that this guy got implants would suddenly set everybody else who has made peace with their hearing loss thinking about it. This guy is here, he's got implants, we should also get it. So it will just disrupt the whole universe that is created over there.
Yeah, okay, so what? I mean,
so of course they will kick him out.
No, I mean, you have implants. Other people will sort of start.
Gaurav just said, Kushraj said, he'll disrupt the whole universe. And Gaurav, so what? Bro,
I'm
this
too
guy
hard.
has no. Dude, he's such a chutia.
Wait, guys, let me explain myself. I am saying this guy shows up with implants in his head, and everyone goes like, "Fuck implants! We've never seen that. We never heard of that. We didn't know surgery exists anymore." Of course, they know
Acha, listen,
about it.
okay.
They know
God,
this
listen.
is
Arey,
something
truth,
they
wait,
can get treatment.
I'll give you a good
Arey.
example. I'll give you a good example,
Oh.
okay? And please try to understand, not from a stupid mind, but from a normal person's mind. That okay,
I'm trying.
now if okay, now let's say, and bear with me, okay? This is not a literal example, but bear with me.
Okay, you're testing my patience. Hurry up.
Let's say you break up with a long term girlfriend, okay? You break up with her, and you break up in like a fuck all way that you can't help, but you have to break up with her. Like, let's say her parents don't accept you or whatever. Now you have to, like, the only way to get over this is to move on. Now what is the fastest and best way to get over the person you've broken up with?
Not being.
Why do I feel this is such a fuck all example? Why do
Yeah,
I feel this is
It's
not
I don't
going
understand.
anywhere?
Though. Baruch's
It is not.
point. Can we get back to the
It is
movie,
not.
Baruch?
Arey, 1 minute. It's not a fuck all example. Listen at least. What would you do to get over?
I would break connection with her. What else would I?
You would fully break connection with her, right?
Yeah.
Till you're in a good enough space to actually go back.
Yeah.
So
We just
so
friends.
I mean, yeah, I know. Yeah, to be exactly, to be comfortable in the same room. So like, why is this so different from that? Like, when you've lost your earring, why would you want to be around other people in that same world when you were when your senses were fully there? Like, wouldn't you rather to accept your phase of not being able to hear it, of not being able to hear anything? Wouldn't you want to break away from everybody who can? Like, wouldn't it be easier to accept that if you're only around people who can't hear who are like you? Like, is it making sense now, or is it still not making any sense?
All I know is that it's an individual choice. He chose to get his treatment. Some people are accepting of that fact. I'm saying, why are we so narrow minded and thinking, you know what? If this guy comes over here, suddenly my whole belief system is threatened in a way that everyone will now suddenly want to get a treatment. And even if they do, it is their choice. Why are you sort of like leading people to believe this is the only way to possibly live your life? He made his decision and it's completely fine.
No. Gaurav,
I don't think
was,
it's that.
Yeah, that was Baro's first point, which he said that it's great that he's having this ambition and that he's going back to wanting to be the way he was. That is, I think that's what he said with supporting that point of view. And I think I just want to contradict that, because I don't think that is like, it's not that I don't agree with that. It's just that the way, as you were talking, Gaurav, stories are made from people who do not accept some things and they want to change something. Basically in this case it was going back to the way he was. So there is always this new person that emerges from this story. I'm not talking about life, I'm just talking about a story, a film. Okay, like at the end of this, at the end of the film, there is something that has changed, which is not there at the start. And for that, I just feel it was very important for him, yes, to fight, to be very ambitious, to be able to go back to it, but also B, to be able to come of age and to accept this other perspective of looking at things, without his ears, basically being the way he was. So I just feel that fight was very important. But what came of that relentless fight was this ending, that he became more accepting. Now, for example, if you bring that to life, for example, hypothetical, please don't take this too hard, but what if somebody very close to us dies? We cannot bring them back. Now, how do we deal with something like a death, which is just you just cannot go back to it? There was, because of technology and everything, medical science, there was a chance that he could get his hearing back. But if somebody dies, and we've not reached that point in our, in the 21st century where we can get somebody who's died back, So how do we make peace with that? I think this film was largely talking about things like this, that like we attached as human beings, we are attached to certain things, probably to our success, to money, to some people, to, something. And when that thing is taken away from us, sometimes it's very important to really come to terms with that and to understand
how is this any different than my breakup example, which you said is bullshit?
Bro, I think you were contradicting your own self when you said, that you don't agree with the fact that, he accepted. I was just trying to put another perspective to that. I agree with your breakup example. There's no problem with that.
Oh, okay.
It sounded very off. starting.
Cool.
Okay.
But yeah, guys, like, don't you all think that the film kind of propelled us towards thinking towards that also, that some things are just, you cannot go back to them, and it's more about how do you actually deal with them.
Yeah. I think that's just basically what the film was, is that
Yeah.
just accepting the truth of your life, the truth that is right now, like even like Ruben's character is basically a guy who is sort of always sort of pining for what is sort of gone, even him having that trait of being an addict basically is something that almost feels like, it sort of haunts him. Even when he's over there getting his treatment and we always feel like he might relapse into an older way of being of an addict basically, so I always feel like he's dealing with that struggle basically of sort of relapsing in some way is always there in him.
Yeah, guys, also like I actually just want to talk about the sound design and editing, and yeah, like you all, like I just felt I've seen very few films, I've not seen the entirety, but I've never seen a film in which sound plays such an important role very explicitly to drive the story forward. It was it was like it was what they were doing, just like how visually we see images. It was like what I was hearing here. I went back twice or thrice to just understand what happened in my ears. What stopped, what started, and the whole fact that if I can get into a little bit detail, is that if you remember this scene where Ruben comes to this character Joe, at that place wherever they keep all the deaf people in that community for the first time. He's sitting inside, they're having a conversation. There's a computer screen where everything happens. Over there is this one shot where the black guy basically leaves the office, and now it's only Joe and Ruben. So when the black guy leaves, there is a shot where we see Ruben from this axis, and then we go back to the other axis. From behind Ruben, we see Joe. Okay, and in between these two shots, the door shuts. Okay, and now when the door is shutting, the door starts shutting, like the sound of the door shutting starts at this shot and it ends at this shot. But at this shot, I can, because I'm sitting here, it's on the right of the frame, I can hear it here. And when I go back to the other shot, because I'm now on the left of the frame, the door is on the left, I can see it here. So I just felt it was that detailed that in that moment also, as the shots were changing, they really focused so much on the perspective of sound. And it really made me believe this again, that a film is 50% visual, 50% sound. It's not more visual and less sound. So do you all like want to like really talk about the sound? Do you all have anything that you all noticed or liked or disliked for that matter?
I mean, yeah, the sound is definitely like great, like just so creative and innovative in the way that it's used for sure. But I also think it packs a punch because it basically puts us behind the eyes of the character. For me, it's just basically another way of entering the psyche of this sort of character. I mean, this movie is actually a character study of this one guy. And the sound design basically, it's just a way of us getting into his head, even when we sort of even when he sort of first loses his hearing, I felt like I was losing my own hearing. It was so accurate, I could feel my own, and I watched it with earphones on and everything. And I felt I felt a little scared for my own self in that moment. I got so much empathy for this guy and what he was going through, because it was just a first-hand experience, a first-hand sensory experience of what he's actually facing in life. So I think it works on a technical level, sure, but also on an emotional, empathetic level, just putting us in this character's shoes. Great job done, yeah.
Bar, do you want to add something?
No, dude, same. Like even I mean, that's the most like thing biggest. Like I mean, very obvious takeaway in terms of sound. Like it helps you just understand and empathize with the deaf community even more. And I think that's why I think that's why it won also the Oscar for it.
Yeah. And what do you all think about the performance of Riz Ahmed? Do you all specifically like or dislike something, or something that stayed with you all, or that like
it was like very authentic, dude. Like I didn't necessarily like him or dislike him in the entire movie. It was just like it was very proper. It was like there was nothing forced about the character. It was just what he would naturally do, which is what made it flow so well.
All of you?
Yeah, I mean, like a great performance, really. I mean, it's just his eyes, you know. At one point, they're like he looks like an owl, and like yeah, because his eyes are just so expressive, you know. Like when he's angry, his eyes sort of are popping out, and when he's smiling, they sort of light up. So I mean, he's a great actor for sure, and like a great performance.
So I just felt why it stood out for me was that there were these moments, little moments in the film where after he's become deaf, a very normal surrounding is that you can hear everything and he just doesn't notice sounds anymore. You know, there are things that he would notice and he would react to for a sound. It's like there's this scene in the trailer, like in the trailer as in the RV, where he's just breaking everything and the girl, his girlfriend is shouting Ruben, you know, and in the emotion of the scene, you kind of want him to look at her and react to her, but he doesn't. And there are many other moments in the film where more subtly, he just doesn't notice. So I just feel as an actor for him to not be able to notice things where he can actually hear and the character can't was amazing. You know, to be able to do that, you know, very effortlessly, as you all said, there was nothing noticeable about him that he was deaf. I just felt that was amazing because like I can't imagine doing that. Like I can never imagine anybody. How do you do that? You know, there's so much of practice. There's so much of mental conditioning involved that, you know, I just can't hear it. I just can't hear it. That was so cool to be done. Yeah, guys. So is there anything else you all want to share? You all want to bring out about the film?
Again, I mean, sort of coming back to the director, uh, and in fact, coming back to the sound design, you know, like the sound design struck me like in the first 5-10 minutes, and again, I you can tell when you're in for a good film because you can tell the amount of sort of attention to detail put by the director, you know, because right in the first scene, we see him and he's just drumming away and it's loud and it's blaring, and the next scene we cut to an absolutely silent shot of him inside the trailer sleeping with his girlfriend. And I thought, wow, you know, he knows that cutting from really loud to complete silence is very dramatic, but then just the way he uses it, you know, like he sort of gets up, he's putting things in the blender, making his smoothie, all of these things, and these sort of innocuous sounds that we have that we can feel. I felt like, oh, this has really good sound design, but these also were callbacks to later on when he actually gets deaf, and these same sounds that we felt in the opening shots, these simple sounds, he doesn't have access to them anymore, you know. So it was such a strong storytelling tool as well to use those sounds and sort of create this parallel between those first shots where he had access to them and he could feel them and he took them for granted, and then later on in the film those exact same simple actions of his, but he can't hear them anymore, you know.
Yeah.
Also,
Bro, also that no, just also that reminds me of very quickly, you know, it's not a huge point. Also, that reminds me that if you remember the first scene when we cut to them sleeping together and we see the girl and we see her hand and we see there are marks. Okay. And in the entire film, nowhere it's shown that she scratches, except for that one moment when he comes back to her house and he tells her, you know, we'll go back to our normal life, and she says, yeah, and then she starts scratching. I just felt that was foreshadowed so much, and that was so powerful. Like it was in the second scene of the film, it was shown that she scratches and she has this issue that, you know, whenever she's stressed or she has some anxiety, she starts scratching. And at that pivotal moment where this guy, will he be able to go back to the way he lived or no, he can't, you know. It was called back then. It was like, I was like, wow. I was like, that's how you craft a scene, you know.
yeah,
And yeah,
I think it, like uh, Darius Marder, the director, I think he is really keen on these details, you know, like because not everything needs to be sort of plummeled over our heads about, you know, the characters this way and this is their past. Just simple shots, like you were saying, right at the start, we see these scars on her forearm and we know she's been cutting herself. She has a history of sort of maybe self harming, and at the same time we see basically Ruben's tattoos, and right here he has this huge tattoo that says, kill me, or something of that sort. And
Please kill me. Please kill me.
Please kill me. And even on his fingers, he has sort of Allah written over here. And even midway through the film, where he's sort of drawing this sort of the sketch of the tattoo of the naked woman, basically, on a piece of paper. And then later on in the following sort of scenes, we see that his friend, basically, that he met at the Riyadh Center, she already has it over there. So, these things aren't sort of underlined for us. These are things that we sort of have to join the dots, and these are characters who are living their lives even outside of the film that we see them. Even outside of these scenes, they have a life, and life sort of goes on, even outside of the world that we can sort of perceive inside the film. So it's almost like they are living their life, and we don't have a purview into every single moment, but we can feel the consequences of those moments.
Yeah. Cool, guys. So I am done. If you all want to add something, go for it. Otherwise, Gaurav, just do the announcement. You want to add something? You wanted to say something.
I'm just looking. Yeah, also fun connection, actually. The director of this movie, Darius Madder, is also the guy who co-wrote The Place Beyond the Pines. And in fact, this movie...
The director of Pines.
Yeah, the director of Pines, Derek Cianfrance, he is basically the guy who was sort of who sort of had the genesis. Story for this one. Yeah, he has a story credit also, but this movie sort of inspired from his unmade documentary or docufiction film called Metalhead.
Okay.
Yeah, fun bit of trivia.
Nice. We could start with that.
Yeah, but we'll end with that.
Cool. So what's the next movie, Gaur? Tell the fans.
The million viewers.
I haven't decided.
Only watches.
Can you please decide? I need to watch it tonight.
No, we need to say it. You can't. You have to decide now. We need to say it.
Decide now.
Yeah, we need to say it.
Give some nice Hindi movie. I was thinking Mani Ratnam's Bombay.
Cool. If you,
But one second, which OTT is it on?
Movie.
I don't have a movie.
Yeah,
go send it to me.
Yeah, obviously you don't have a movie. I'll send it.
Send it to me tonight only. Don't forget.
What? I don't know.
Send it to me tonight.
Okay, so at least. Okay, guys, I hope you all enjoyed this episode. For next week, my choice is basically Mani Ratnam's Bombay. So come in, having watched that film, do your homework, and then we're going to talk about it. This is Professor Gaurav signing off. Bye, guys. Good night.